Hey everybody, Ryan here at etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at your best trailer wiring options for your 2020 Chevrolet Traverse. Today we're going to have 4 different wiring options to choose from. We're going to have 2 4-way flat connectors and 2 7-way connectors. So for the 4-way flats, right here we're going to have the Tekonsha, and right here we're going to have the Kurt. For the 7-way connectors, again, right here we're going to have the Kurt, and right here we're going to have the Tekonsha. Before we get too carried away in all the differences, I'd just like to throw out there which wiring I would personally choose for my own Traverse. When it comes to the 4-way flat wiring, I think I would go with the Tekonsha, and that's really for a couple of different reasons. Once you kind of just hold it in your hand compared to the Kurt, you can feel the wires are just going to be a little bit thicker. The connector here just feels a little more solid. The dust cap, it's going to be real heavy duty and well built, and just overall it feels like it's going to be a little bit better constructed. And not to mention too, this one is going to be a little bit longer, all the wires are, so it's going to give you a little more flexibility as far as mounting options go. And if I had to choose a 7-way, I think again I would go with the Tekonsha, and more or less for the same reasons. The wires are going to be a little bit thicker and just feel a little more heavy duty. It's going to feel a little more well built. And again, this one is going to give you a little more length, which is definitely a good thing with the 7-way. Like I said, a few more mounting options, and you kind of just want a little more flexibility with these heavier duty connectors. Well, with that being said, that doesn't mean that the Kurt isn't going to work or be a bad option. That's just kind of my personal preference. Now, the main difference I found between the 2 wirings is that quality of construction. Again, a little bit better in my opinion. The Kurt is going to have a slight install advantage, and that's because whenever we use that factory port, both of our wirings are going to plug into, the Kurt actually gets its ground signal from that port, as opposed to the Tekonsha, where that is actually going to have a pre-attached ring terminal, and so we are going to have to ground this to the body of our vehicle. Really isn't a huge deal, but it's just one of the things you got to think about. They do give you a self-tapping screw to get that done though. But other than that, the little bit of advantage that this has with the length, gives you a little more mounting options, and they're both going to come included with everything you need. I like that Kurt does give us a handful of extra zip ties. It'd be nice if Tekonsha would give you a few extra, but really not a huge deal. But all in all, these are both going to get the job done. Both going to have plenty of power to illuminate those older style incandescent bulbs and even the newer LEDs, and work just fine. And pretty much the same thing goes for our 7-ways. Other than kind of what we talked about earlier, as far as the length and the quality of construction goes, they're going to be very, very similar. Both of the plugs are going to be almost identical. Both pretty quality plugs, and have a spring-loaded cap and have a rubber seal in there to help keep any moisture out. And one thing I do want to mention, both the Kurt as well as the Tekonsha, they're not going to come with the bracket to mount up your 7-way plug. So that's something you're probably going to need to pick up separate, that way you can get this mounted up next to your hitch. But other than that, either one of these kits is going to work good for that situation where you need a 7-way. They're both going to provide you with those necessary lighting functions and a few more. You're going to get the electric brake output signal if you're using a brake controller. You're also going to get that 12-volt auxiliary power if your trailer has a battery on it, using it for a winch or something like that. And you're also going to get those reverse lights. So all in all, you really can't go wrong with whichever one you pick. They're all going to work great. One thing I do recommend for all these kits though is getting some dielectric grease and applying that grease onto the terminals every now and again, since these are all designed to live outside. That's really just going to help prolong the life of all the terminals and provide you with this good solid connection. And that'll finish up our look at of your best trailer wiring options for your 2020 Chevrolet Traverse.